I'm fucking miserable. And away we go. What do you want? I mean, honestly, what do you want? 76ers lose a tough one. Credit to them. They made it interesting. They were down by as many as 27 points in the game. Fourth quarter go on a 23-2 run, 24-2 run, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken. And ultimately they fall. 113-102 is your final score. This is Sixers wrap up, presented by 975 The Fanatic. You got Sean Bernard, DK, and Network, Crossing Broad. You got Sam Ostry from The Score. I am Sean Brace, live Monday through Friday, 10-2, where it was at about 1:35 that we found out that Joel Embiid would not be playing. It was like 1:25 that Joel Embiid would not be playing and is essentially done for the year. Because I would imagine that it's going to be probably about a 3-week process for him to get back on the floor after having surgery for appendicitis. And I don't think that the 76ers will be playing basketball in 3 weeks. So with that being said, let's get to it. Let's talk about tonight's game, though. Yeah, it's just, I know it's like, because in the back of your brain, like that's the only thing that goes to your mind is like, man, this is a pretty important game. Only 2 more left after this one. Sam will break it down, but Sean, will start with you. They showed fight, but like, what are we really saying about tonight's game?
Yeah, I think I went into tonight's game with the mindset of this game goes one of 2 ways. That we either see this team sort of band together, find a way to win without Joel Embiid, and give this team a puncher's chance at the playoff seed that they desire to climb into that top 6 seeds, or this would be a full let go of the rope situation. And for most of the matchup, it certainly felt like the latter in that conversation, that I did not feel an inspired performance from the Sixers team. Obviously, they are not as good as the Houston Rockets, especially without Joel Embiid. It took a pretty special performance, a triple-double from Joel to beat this team the first time right there, and I do think that they were undermanned with it. But I did appreciate the little spark of hope down the stretch there, going on a run, and I did like that it was spearheaded from a lot of the bench unit guys who I think got rewarded down the stretch. So a disappointing game or aggravating watch for most of it right there. I do appreciate the little spark at the end.
Yeah, Sam, they scored 29 points in the fourth quarter to the Houston Rockets 17. Of course, Houston taking the foot off the gas just a little bit. No excuse still. But, man, I'll tell you what. I was joking with you guys. I gave the 5.5, which wasn't a joke. That was serious. But I was joking with you that I gave the 5.5 and didn't think that I had anything to worry about. The next thing you know, I'm like, one eye open. Like, really? Is this happening right now? And the Sixers showed some fight. They showed some heart, but we know how it works in the NBA. So is that really misguided to believe that this team put up that much of an effort in the fourth quarter, or was it just the ebbs and flows of a game?
You really jinxed yourself there with that. But I mean, you never know. Like in a way, it's definitely
Scuba
showed a lot of fight. But at the same time, when you're up 28 points, which is what the Rockets were at one point, you're just naturally going to take your foot off the gas. But, I mean, a big reason of why the Sixers were down almost 30 points was because of their effort and their fight. So it was good at least they showed that in the fourth quarter. I have some serious problems with the rotation and how that game ended with Nick Nurse's kind of just substitution pattern where, the Sixers cut it to 7 with about less than 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And the Rockets take a timeout there. The Sixers bench unit, it was a lineup of VJ Edgecombe, Justin Edwards, Quentin Grimes, Dominic Barlow, and Andre Drummond. Those are the guys that got them to cut it to 7. But then under 5 minutes, you're coming out of timeout, and Tyrese Maxey and Paul George still stay on the bench, which is just, I thought they were done for the game, which is fine. If they're done for the game and you're quitting and throwing in the white towel, that's one thing. But then Maxey comes back a minute later after Rockets hit 2 threes, so the 7-point lead becomes a 13-point lead for the Rockets. And then Maxey comes in with 3 minutes. They also cut it to 7 at one point after that. But it was just like too little, too late. When you had you were in a 7-point deficit, you had an opportunity to put Maxey back in at that point. And then also Paul George back in, who didn't have a good game by any means. He's still the Sixers' second or third best player, and he didn't play at all down the stretch of that game. So I don't know if it's like when you throw in the white towel, you're not going to put these guys in because they have the mindset of, all right, I'm done for the night. Or it was just, I don't think Paul George is going to help us win. But 2 of the Sixers' best players coming out of the under 5 minute timeout were on the bench. And then the Rockets ballooned the lead from there. It made no sense to me why both those guys stayed on the bench.
Yeah, I
Nick,
wouldn't say
Nick
I'm
Nurse
necessarily-
hasn't had a great season. That's for sure. Go ahead, Sean.
I was going to say I'm not necessarily the guy that is itching to jump at the defense of Nick Nurse in general. I kind of saw it with this one that like that was the bench unit that sparked the run. Like just looking, and I know plus minus is a flawed stat with all this, but I do think it in this context works. Justin Edwards was a plus 12. Andre Drummond was a plus 7. We got a minus 17 from Kelly Oubre. Paul George a minus 15 right there. There was actual energy with that group on that floor. That VJ Edgecombe, Dominic Barlow, Quentin Grimes, Andre Drummond, that bench unit, and Justin Edwards, the fifth in there. That's what led the spark. I didn't mind rewarding them. I see far clearer of a case for why Tyrese Maxey should have than Paul George. But frankly, both those guys were disappointing today. Paul George had nothing. I think he attempted 6 shots in the first half, which is just unacceptable when Joel Embiid is not on the floor. And for Tyrese Maxey, man, I'm pretty certain that he re-injured that finger. There is no doubt in my mind. I have not seen him play this passive, not looking confident, seeking out his shot attempts. He missed a layup today after getting clear to the lane. It does feel like he's not quite right. So I get it from Nurse's perspective, but this is one of those basketball debates because these things happen kind of a lot.
But to Sean's point, putting Maxey back in for Edwards is essentially what they did a minute later. It is what they did a minute later. Wasn't going to mess up the mojo of that lineup. You see this all the time. A bench unit will make a run. Doesn't mean you leave your best players on the bench. That's the time we put them back in, actually, because the bench unit brought this energy. They cut the lead, and now you're going to have your bench, or you're going to have your starters come back and release your best players. So the Maxey thing, if you want to leave Paul George on the bench, that's one thing.
Yeah.
Even though I think Dominic Barlow did a decent job on on Kevin Durant most of the night, but he had a huge mistake late in that game that freed Kevin Durant open for a 3, which is, I believe it cut it from 7 to 10 or extended it from 7 to 10, the Rockets lead. And that it was over from there. So, but the Maxey thing made no sense because you put him in a minute later. So why not just put him in after that timeout where the Sixers had 2 offensive possessions where they didn't score and they give up 2 threes on the other end?
We got our first. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody call for trading Tyrese Maxey.
All right.
Oh, they're around. There is.
Yeah.
All right. Let's calm down a little bit.
Well, Impressiero. If I butchered your first name, I apologize. It's a wonderful name. We got to trade Maxey, not because I want to, because we have to. He's the only one with value. If Atlanta or Dallas get a top 4 pick, you see if you can make a deal, send it around a top 5 pick and other stuff to pair VJ up with AJ or Caleb Wilson. I don't know. I'm not trading Tyrese Maxey.
Well, first off, if anyone gets the number 1 pick, they're not trading for Tyrese Maxey and giving up AJ Debance. You'd be bringing in Maxey on a max deal.
Who's
AJ
going number 1?
AJ Debance is going number 1 in my book.
Oh,
I agree.
But
I would take AJ as well, but
you think it'll be Peterson still?
I still believe it might. Man.
I think it depends on who gets the pick a lot.
Of course.
I think that matters in this draft. But that team, whoever it is, would rather have those guys on a rookie deal than Maxey on this max deal. So, and Caleb Wilson, the Sixers should absolutely not be trading Maxey for Caleb Wilson. So let's pump
build around 77, and of course Tyrese Maxey. All right, that's where I'm at mentally. Yeah, look, ugly game. You know, I guess you have to be honest with your assessment. You have to be fair about it. Where it's like these guys are human too. They get the news that JoJo, is coming back. He's ready to go, and then all of a sudden he's not playing.
That I reject though, because Kate and Ala were leaning into that on the broadcast of like, you got to understand the human nature when there's a letdown. You're a professional, man, and if anything, there should be the clear desire of like we've gone this far without Joel Embiid, that we've won all these games without him already this season. I don't accept that. I mean, I'm sure there's truth to it. Like, obviously there is human nature and things, but that's not like a passable excuse in my mind of being let down by the news that Joel Embiid is undergoing surgery on his appendix, which is a whole situation there.
Yeah.
I don't take that as a reason for why they lost this game.
All right. No, I don't either. No, they lost this game because they're not good enough.
Correct.
Point blank.
And they didn't care, man. Like, if they had
they're not bad enough to be down 30 points to that team.
Correct.
I don't think the Rockets are that good.
Fair.
Correct.
Even though the Rockets are probably one of the hottest teams in the game.
They're going to get a really good matchup in the playoffs against the Lakers, but I don't think they're a real contender or anything.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get into, of course, everything around Joel Embiid and appendicitis. I mean, we are cursed, right?
He's cursed, man. I'll say this. I'll lead by saying this. I still have sympathy for Joel Embiid, man, and I do think that has been lost on a lot of people when we have these conversations. Is for sure there are fair critiques of the way that he handles himself, the way that he is not up to the standard of a professional that you would hope for your superstar right there. But when you dive down the list of all the things that he's dealt with, from Bell's palsy to appendicitis, being hit in the face, breaking his orbital bone 4 different times in his career, everything that has gone down, there's so many things that are just like, this really isn't this guy's fault right here. And this is one of those situations right there. This absolutely sucks. This absolutely is like the bottom falling out for the outlook for the season. This is the proverbial straw that breaks the camel's back on the year right there. But I do feel bad for him as a human being that he's currently sitting in a hospital bed watching the Sixers get blown out by the Houston Rockets and just hoping for once in his career he can have a healthy playoff run. And he's going to be robbed of that once again.
Yeah. No playoff run for JoJo.
Let's talk about the injury for a second.
We ain't playing 3 weeks from now, Sam.
3 weeks, but maybe in some scenario he returns in 2 weeks from now.
Because that's what JoJo's definitely known for.
True, but with an appendicitis, and definitely not no doctor, but let me put my Dr. Sam cap on for a second. It's not one of those injuries where it kind of will affect your movement or your mobility or your lateral movement, all that stuff, the way a knee or something like that would. So if there's a scenario where he's cleared by doctors and he wouldn't put himself in harm's way by actually playing in 2 weeks, it's not unreasonable to put a 2-week timeline on it. Now, in 2 weeks, the Sixers, if they make the playoffs, which is a huge if, we'll get to in a little bit, they might already be down 3-0 in any series. So it's like, all right, is Embiid really going to return if he's not 100% when they're down 3-0? Probably not. But if we're playing the optimistic path here, 2 weeks is a super optimistic outlook where the Sixers would be going into game 3 or game 4 in a first round series.
Sean Bernard.
I'm usually the pessimistic one. Look at Sean shaking his head.
Yeah, this is like, who knows? We need more information, need more details. I did my best to Google around and figure out. I luckily am not a guy who's experienced appendicitis himself or have any sort of, feeling for how this ultimately is. I think the reality is we're not seeing Joel Embiid again this season. I think it's pretty unlikely that there's really any pathway to that. Who knows? Maybe they can tread water, find a way to beat the Magic and climb their way out of the play-in into an opportunity. But I don't know, man. I do think this is probably the straw that broke the camel's back, but I will wait for a little bit more information.
We got some new widgets going on right now. Just playing around with
action.
it. Yeah, a little poll action. Are the Sixers making the playoffs?
I do want to say, too, that it is hard not to feel sympathy for Joel Embiid.
Of course.
I mean, the orbital fractures in the playoffs, the Bell's palsy 2 years ago against the Knicks, now an appendicitis. And it's not just the injuries, the absurd injuries that seems like nobody else in the NBA gets. It's also the timing of them, where they're all happening right before or around the first round of the playoffs. It's not like these are happening in January. So, yeah, there are real injuries that are part of the structural injuries with his knee and all that stuff. That's part of kind of his build and all that. But these are just really unlucky injuries that it feels like only he gets. And, yeah, he's cursed. The Sixers are cursed. Maybe it's a combination of both, whatever it is. But it is hard not to feel sympathy for someone who has to go through that stuff, even if he deserves, when you talk about the disappointment of his tenure as a Sixer, he deserves a lot of blame for that. But this isn't really the time to litigate all that. This is just like, this is disappointing and it sucks for everybody involved. Whereas like Sixers are heading into the playoffs as a dangerous team. Nobody wants to see this team. A Knicks-Sixers series, that'll get really interesting. Now the Knicks are going to sweep a first-round playoff series. The Pistons, if they had to play them as an 8 seed, now it's just, we'd love to see the Sixers. We'd love to see this team without Joel Embiid, if they even make the playoffs, and it's just a whole different conversation and tenor around this group.
Yep. So right now, the 76ers can get a playoff spot among the top 6 seeds and avoid a play-in tournament if they win their final 2 games, and if they're able to have the Raptors lose their final 2 games at the Knicks and against the Brooklyn Nets. So that's where we're currently at right now, boys and girls, and things are pretty bleak. And at the end of the day, we'll bring it back to the simple thing that we have been saying: experience matters. And to get into the playoffs, regardless of what happens, you get playoff experience for VJ and Tyrese Maxey. I think that's a plus. So, of course, that's where I'm still standing when that conversation. But at this point in time, it's almost just like, man, put a bullet in it. It's over. It's over, Johnny.
Yeah, I mean, they might as well go for it. Like they've, this
why
is
not?
the situation here, and I do think that there are benefits, most specifically VJ. Like if there is one super positive takeaway from the season, he is special, man. That VJ Edgecombe is a foundational piece of this franchise for years to come. Even tonight, man. Like I was noticing tonight in that first half when they especially looked dead, he had more fight than anyone on the floor wearing a Sixers uniform, and I do appreciate and respect that. As Allen Iverson said himself, he's got that dog in him right there. So VJ is a guy I think could use some of that postseason seasoning. I've been really impressed with how far he's come from start to finish this season, and I think that could only help with that. But they're no longer this frisky, can make a run team if Joel Embiid has no chance of returning.
No, yeah, it's really painful because no JoJo changes everything. This team is, it's still a good team. It's a team that you can go out there and hopefully watch and enjoy it. But as far as winning a series, no, definitely not. There's no way that anybody's convincing me at all. So, again, right now, currently sitting, boys, they are in the play-in. At the 8th seed, they'll be taking on the Orlando Magic. If that game was played tomorrow without Joel Embiid, of course, and the Magic, who are winners of 4 straight, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Where we stand on that game? Any chances the Sixers would win?
Yeah, the Magic don't really scare me, to be honest. That like they've struggled all year to get Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero on the same page right there. I do think that they are heading to a divorce as that duo moving forward right there. They brought in Desmond Bane to solve their spacing issues. They're 27th in the league in 3-point percentage and I think 25th in 3-point volume right there. They're not a team that I think would blow out the Sixers, but I think it would be a toss-up game. That is probably the most favorable matchup in this group. I get the Heat don't look that good right now. They've looked really disappointing these past few games, but there is that Miami Devil magic that I don't particularly want to see in the play-in, and the Hornets have been incredible since the new year right there. So the Magic would be my preferred matchup out of that mix, but obviously you're playing with fire when you are in this one-game situation with the play-in scenario.
I see Danny's got some jokes this evening.
Yeah.
And Franz Wagner, actually, he came back 2 weeks ago from an injury where he missed around 2 months, and then he got hurt last night. So he's probably going to be out for the play-in too. So this Magic team, I think the Sixers could beat the Magic. I think they could beat the Heat. Hornets, I'm not so sure about. He'd have looked terrible recently. The thing is that what we haven't even discussed yet is Tyrese Maxey does not look good, and he hasn't looked good for a little bit. He's going to make an All-NBA team this year, probably second team, no doubt. He hasn't been an All-NBA player for over 2 months now. And he's just, whatever it is, if you want to say he's played so many minutes, he leads the league in minutes. If you want to say recently, it's more the finger injury. He obviously missed a bunch of time with that finger injury, 3 weeks, and then he came back and he might have re-injured it. Whatever it is, there's stretches where it feels like those finger rolls or that such a patented Tyrese Maxey move are back to normal. And there's stretches where the speed and the range and the long range shooting is back to normal. And then there's other times where he looks so passive, disinterested. It looks like his burst isn't there. And it's just, he can't be the consistently fast, explosive player that he was earlier in the season for as long as the Sixers need him to be, especially without Joel Embiid. So if he doesn't return to being an all-NBA level guy, then the Sixers have no chance against the Heat, Magic, anybody. And they also will need Paul George to be the guy that he was the last 2 weeks when he came back from his suspension. But when he has games like this, absolute duds, where he just looks passive and just isn't playing well, then the Sixers are cooked. So there's a lot of variables at play when the Sixers team play whoever they play in the play-in, but it's a one-game sample. It's win and you're in, lose and you're home. So who knows how this will play out?
Yeah, Paul George has had 3 straight games where he has looked very mediocre, if I'm not mistaken. He came back, he had 5 great games, and then these last 3 have been tough games for him. He had 20 against Detroit, 7 of 14, 16 against San Antonio. That was not a good outing. And then he just scored 7 this evening in 24 minutes. And you just need more from Paul George. Yeah, need more from him.
Tonight was inexcusable. Like, it's 6 shot attempts at halftime. That cannot happen when Joel Embiid is off the floor. And that's one of the things that, like, he's been awesome since he's returned for the large part that I've very much appreciated and been thrilled by. This is the max contract guy that they look like to sign. He is seeking out his shots. He is creating, rebounding, defending at a high level right there. We got none of that tonight. That Paul George looked like he was going through the motions, that he had accepted defeat. He got the news of Joel Embiid and figured this is the end of his season as well. And maybe that 25 game suspension wasn't exactly the blessing in disguise or fountain of youth that it was being made out to be.
This was the most important game of the entire season for the Sixers. And we're talking about their two stars, their two veteran leaders. Paul George and Tyrese Maxey had absolute duds, two of the worst games in a while. And it's dumbfounding. Like it's hard to even comprehend how bad those two guys were in the Sixers' most important game of the year.
Yeah, that's why when the news came down about JoJo missing this game due to an illness originally, like I wanted to put my head through a wall.
Nobody believed it for a second.
No,
it wasn't even.
It's a lot of people. Obviously, everybody felt bad when nobody believed it. When you see an illness and then you hear that it's appendicitis, everybody's going to feel bad. But nobody should blame themselves for not believing that it was an illness.
No.
We've been down this path many times before of blatant lies on the injury report. And for us to just figure it out because nobody actually knows what's bothering him and the disconnect between what he wants people to know and what the organization has to put out in the injury report. So nobody should blame themselves for being like, oh, sickness, we don't buy that for a second.
Yeah, and again, the illness, and he was just sick last week against the Wizards. So it's like that's the only thing that's going through my mind is like, all right, something resurfaced in him. It's like you're going to miss this game, and you were calling out, or you were already being ruled out at 12:30, Houston time. Like, what is going on? It's something did not feel right about it. And in hindsight, I wish I would have said. I know I did say what would be acceptable. Like we went down that path, and John, credit to him, John even said it because I didn't agree with him. He's like, if it was a flu, and I'm like, flu, my ass, you better at least give it a shot. And then if you can't go, if you puke on the floor, then go. It's the biggest, most important game for the Sixers. There was no excuse to miss tonight's game. None, except for appendicitis.
Yeah, this did. But honestly, this still falls under like the same criticism that I've been screaming all year. If it's not even the decision making with Joel Embiid, it's the communication with things. Like everyone spelled this out. If he's ruled out for illness, like something's off here. There's more to the story. This does not check out. If there is a release when this happens of Joel Embiid is currently in the hospital in Houston undergoing tests, like that changes the way we view this conversation. And it's been this way all season long. If you're just direct, if you just tell the whole story for what the situation is, everyone looks better. Joel Embiid looks better. The Sixers organization look better. The fan base feels a little bit calmer, but that has not been the direction in which they've gone all year. And this was another example of that. Obviously, it really sucks that it's appendicitis for Joel, and I feel for him as a human being, and I feel for this basketball team as that kind of closes the door. But the lesson that still should be taken from this is if there's a bit more honesty from an organizational standpoint, all of this process runs a little bit smoother.
Yeah,
guess what? The disconnect is probably ending because there's a good chance Joel Embiid has played his last game as a 76er.
Oh, whoa.
Zero chance.
Zero chance?
I would put it at zero chance.
That is how? How is there zero chance?
Yeah, you can't go zero. But I mean, what,
Okay,
5? I'll go 5.
How is there not more than a 20% chance whoever comes in wants to start this thing over and doesn't have to deal with this every single year?
Where are you sending them, Sammy? What's the deal?
That's my point. It's like you got to have a general manager to take on this contract to believe that he's going to stay healthy.
I don't think it's to take on this contract. Is how much are you actually willing to give up if you're another team for Joel Embiid? And the answer is probably not a lot. But then the Sixers have to make that calculation. Is it worth to get this guy off the team, off his contract, and start over with this young backcourt? And to me, which I've been saying all year, the answer is yes. And I think if a new guy comes in and Bob Myers selects the new president, I think that guy might also make that same calculation and say, you know what? It's just worth cutting ties. We're not going to get back a huge haul for Joel Embiid, but it's worth cutting ties with this guy for anything at this point.
But it just isn't. Like, it just isn't. Like, we just watched
96 games over the last 3 seasons.
Okay, but look at the team without him. Like, if we're actually talking about building out a contender, this doesn't make the organization better.
And look at the team with him over the last 3 seasons. He's been on the roster. That's with him. Look at the team over the last 3 seasons.
I said it today. I said, just name me an NBA team. And somebody goes, the New Orleans Pelicans. I go, if Joel Embiid, I would send him to New Orleans. And I would hope he'd win the next 3 straight championships. Like, I don't care.
Well, you get Zion in return.
I can't deal with this anymore.
That would be even worse.
And not deal with this anymore. So yeah, to Sam's point, like I think we all should want something new. We should all want something fresh. I get it, Sean. Be careful, like Joel Embiid is a great player.
No, it's there's no pathway to a deal that makes the Sixers better as a basketball team. There's no argument against that.
No.
There's not a single trade with Joel Embiid that
You need-
improves them.
There
as a
is,
basketball
because it's
team.
addition by subtraction.
You need a hard
But it's
reset,
not.
man.
Like,
You need a reset.
A reset
You
is
need-
addition by subtraction.
You
Absolutely.
need a hard reset, bro.
The culture,
my-
the communication, the
You
maturity.
know, on the
all of it.
iPhone,
all of
where you
it.
hold the 2 buttons down, that's what you need to do. You need to hit the 2 buttons on the 76ers organization.
Full on reset.
Get rid of
And I
anybody,
think
everybody.
anybody other than Daryl Morey would understand that. I really believe if Daryl Morey is out, Joel Embiid is also out. I really
I
believe that.
very much disagree. And honestly, I think there's a far larger chance of the guy that is brought in. There's if there is a new face, there is an even less of a chance that Joel Embiid is moved, because
He's
the
like, "Wait a
first
minute.
thing that
Why? Why? 'Cause
That's
he'll
my
have
guy?
He'll have a long leash and full autonomy to do whatever you want with this roster. What's your pitch going to be to Josh Harris and Bob Myers in that meeting? We're actually going to run this back for the 4th straight year and see how this goes with Joel Embiid. Maybe he'll play 35 games, and maybe we'll make the play-in.
And no, your pitch is every single year that goes by, it gets easier to move. We're not getting equal value. We're not getting close to that.
No,
in a
because he's
trade
only
for Joel
getting
Embiid.
that's so not true that every year it goes by, it's easier to move. He's only getting older and probably more injured and more miles on.
It's
So that's not true. Yeah, the
That is
contract
true.
descends,
Yeah.
but that it's not about the contract, it's about the player.
Oh,
You're
my
signing
goodness.
up to pay him $71 million in 2028, 2029 if you're another organization right now.
Hell no.
Right.
Like,
That's what
no,
I'm saying.
But at the same time, like, did you think the Wizards were a suitor a year ago for Anthony Davis? Like, these teams emerge, and
What
they're
did they get
willing
for
to-
Anthony Davis, dude? Are you taking what they got for Anthony Davis for Joel Embiid?
No, I mean,
'Cause
essentially,
absolutely
it was
not.
a salary dump. It was a salary dump. But
Right.
part of moving on from Anthony Davis was we're stripping this thing down and we're starting over with our franchise centerpiece, Cooper Flag. That was the logic, and I thought that was
Are
sound
we gonna
logic.
ignore? Are we gonna ignore that happened on the back of the worst trade in professional sports history that
For
literally
sure.
made a revolt in the fan base that led to that right there? Like
For
that's such
Sure,
a
but that's
unique
not
situation.
relevant to the new people that have to come in and decide what are we going to do with this injured, aging star. And Anthony Davis isn't close to the player Joel Embiid is, but what are we going to do with this aging star? And it's like we're going to
Well,
salary dump him because we have this young guy to build around. Sixers are in a similar situation where they have 2 young guys to build around.
It's super relevant from the standpoint if you're going to make that comparison. You're talking about a dude that was there for a cup of coffee in Dallas, that there was a whole revolt from the fan base, versus Joel Embiid still being, when he's healthy, a top 10 player in the league. That's a different conversation right there. I'll also point what I think is more likely in this case. I do think Paul George is movable. And I do think
Yes.
if you are trying to half step out of this, that I think Joel Embiid is like an impossible chess piece to move because of all the contractual situations here. You can begin to turn the keys over to Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe. I'm not saying you're going to get a ridiculous return for Paul George. What I do think you can do is break up the contracts a little bit. So if you can get 2 $20-ish million guys for Paul George that are, players that can contribute right here, you can start to talk yourself into building out a future. I just think Joel Embiid is a pill that you need to continue to swallow right now.
Well, so I think Paul George is movable because Bobby
Bad Paul
Marks said
George.
it.
Bad Paul
Bobby
George
Marks
right
said
there.
it today on
Yeah, he did.
on middays with Marks and Brace. He said that any contract in the league is movable. So Joel Embiid's
Sure.
contract is movable. Paul George's contract is movable. But you're also looking at a similar situation where who's taking on Paul George's deal? 2 more years left on it, getting a max money. This guy who hasn't contributed to winning basketball in 2 seasons now. So you're not getting good value for either of those guys. I think both contracts are movable. Paul George doesn't have the emotional attachment to the organization, so you're easily just to get rid of him. But both these contracts aren't contracts that teams are just going to take on.
I'm not saying you get this amazing return for Paul George, but I do think there would be significantly more suitors when having the conversation for a guy like Paul George, who is as plug and play as a player can really come in the NBA at the wing position right there. You can throw Paul George on any team and he can find a way to make an impact, find a role, be a member of the rotation right there. That is not true of Joel Embiid. You have to change your entire play style when he's a part of your organization, which is another reason why I think it's like impossible or at least extremely difficult to try and find an actual viable deal right there. Paul George, I don't think is the case like that. Again, I'm not saying this is the pathway to the Sixers having long-term success, but when we are talking about beginning to make moves to change the face of this organization, tone of this organization, that's where I would probably start with things.
All right. Well, here we are. And 2 games left, boys. Let's talk about them real quick. Got the Pacers tomorrow night. Close up shop Monday or Sunday against the Milwaukee Bucks. Is Giannis playing on Sunday? Yes or no?
No,
He's out.
officially ruled out.
Good. All right, so that's that. That's good. Sixers are going to win the final 2 games.
I mean, they better.
Hopefully.
Well, the Pacers
Yeah,
lose on purpose.
These are
right?
2 teams that are trying to lose basketball games. And to the Sixers' credit, even when Tyrese Maxey was out with his finger injury and Paul George was suspended, Sixers did a really good job of taking care of business against these tanking teams, which, I mean, I guess we're giving them credit for that, but they didn't have good rosters on the floor, and they won all those games that they should have. So, yeah, I'd be pretty shocked if they lost to the Pacers or Bucks, but it's the Sixers. Anything can happen.
Pacers won tonight against the Brooklyn Nets. Congratulations to Brooklyn. Nice work by them. Yeah, 123 to 94. I was wondering who was going to lose that. Who wanted to lose that game more? Apparently the home team, Brooklyn, 94 points in the game, 123-94 your final score there. The Toronto Raptors took out the Heat 128 to 114 in that one. As we've been talking about here, 113-102. Oh, Knicks win 4 straight in a row, if I believe that's correct. They took out the Celtics at the Garden. That final 112 to 106. Yeah, again, you know where we're at right here, right now. 2 games left. You're playing against a team that wants to lose, and you're playing against Doc Rivers. And I don't know if he's going to be able to get that team up. I don't know if he's going to give them a nice little pep talk in the locker.
Yeah, did you see the report?
Damn right I did.
The best part about the report is, as told to ESPN by 6 sources in the room, 6 guys couldn't wait to get it off their chest.
And they were going over it on ESPN while Danny Green was at the desk.
Yeah,
and he was just laughing. I don't know if you saw that clip, but he was laughing the whole time. And he was like,
that was I heard this speech before, laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
So here we go again. Yeah, Doc is Doc. We know that. All right, so just some other ones here real quick. Sam, would you rather have Trey Murphy and Derek Queen for JoJo?
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? Derek Queen's on a rookie deal, and Trey Murphy's one of the most underrated players in the league. That would be an unbelievable haul. Pelicans would never do that in a million years.
Sam's cooking. We got Think Davis has only 1 or 2 years left on his contract, and Embiid has 3 more years after this season. No doubt about that.
True.
And finally, in the final year of the deals, teams can can buy both players out, guaranteed. Miami trade for Embiid if they miss out on Giannis. I don't know, man. I just don't.
Miami is a shooter. Like that's an interesting point, honestly. Like if Miami does miss out on Giannis and they'll be fully in on the Giannis sweepstakes, what's the Heat's path? I mean, they've been fine with being mediocre in this playing team. They need to risk something for some superstar level player. That is an interesting team to watch out for. What would the Sixers get back?
Tyler Hero.
That would be an unbelievable haul for the Sixers. I mean,
yes, it would be.
Unbelievable haul.
Unbelievable haul.
Come on.
Yeah.
He's actually not. I was going to say he's available. He doesn't really play that much.
Yeah, I was going to say he missed a bunch of games too, so it's kind of tough to argue that point. But
nothing says Heat culture like Joel Embiid if I've ever seen a match made in heaven in that conversation.
Yeah, that would be funny conversations about the injury report between him and Pat Riley every day.
So is it worth speaking of conversation tomorrow? Is it worth to ask the question? Did Joel Embiid just play his last game with the Sixers?
I mean, you can always get the people talking, Bryce. Like, I don't think that's a bad question to poise. This is that specific question right there is one where I think we're at the direct intersection of like logic and emotions right there. There's a lot of people like Sam Ostry that want to rush to kick him out the door. I just don't see a logistic
rush.
But at least I've been consistent. I'm not reacting to this appendicitis news or the knee injury. I've been very consistent for the last year about this is who this player is. He's going to play 35 games, and when he's not out there, it's going to bring the whole team down because you have to kind of create your style around him because he's that good. So that's why it's addition by subtraction to me. So I've been very consistent about that for a year now. So it's not emotion with me. To me, it's logic.
You're right. You just lose me on the I don't see a deal. I don't see one out there that I think can actually improve the Sixers.
Well, that's where we disagree. That's where we disagree is that I just think that getting him off the team is addition by subtraction, and I would salary dump him at this point.
Yeah, that's where I draw the line in the sand. Of You just can't salary dump a dude that when he's healthy is a top 10 player in the league still. Like he
He'd
showed
be
that.
picked
this
up
year.
immediately. He would just be, like it would
He'd
be.
probably win a championship wherever you trade him to.
No shot.
Some
No
shot.
Mm.
Some shot.
So Bernard's
if
putting
the-
it at 0% chance that he
Yeah,
plays
what
in
of
the
him
series.
getting a ring? Okay, that's one thing, but to him actually play in 4 straight rounds in the playoffs
Yeah.
and help contribute to a championship team,
No.
I don't see how that's going to happen in year 13. No, it's never happened in his career. How's it going to happen now?
No.
These guys are all getting older, man.
Especially the second round of the playoffs is you play every other day. Like he can't even get to that point anymore where he could play every other day in a intense physical 7-game series. So yeah, Sean's putting it at 0% chance that he plays last game as a Sixer. I don't know what you're at, Brace. I'd probably say 50-50.
Wow. Oh, yeah, that's a question that's going to be asked tomorrow on the show.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. If you're at 50-50, Sam, jeez, might have to have you call in. We're going to be coming on the show tomorrow.
Please.
Let's go. All right. Let's put a bow on this one. And again, it's like you don't want to buy into it, but they showed a little fight. They know what's in front of them. Is there, potentially some, it's not even postseason play. It's postseason play if you make the in-game tournament or the play-in, excuse me. Yeah, it's postseason. So they know postseason's there. It's not the playoffs, but anything is good for experience. So hopefully they can find a way to win a game against the Indiana Pacers tomorrow night at Xfinity Mobile Arena. Let's put a bow on it. Sam, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, I just want to say, too, about the Embiid conversation. I know we did a lot of big picture tonight, but it's hard not to when you have this news going down. I also think it very much depends on what Josh Harris decides to do with Daryl Morey. I think we all agree no matter what, Nick Nurse is gone. What he
I'm not
decides
as
to do,
certain about that as you guys are.
Oh,
I'm pretty certain.
Has to be.
I would. I
And
went on
look,
record that I would. I just
Yeah.
am less certain that it's going to happen.
He has legitimate excuses of the unavailability of his stars, but at some point it's just like you got to move on. You need a new voice. The Daryl Morey thing, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to play out, and that will very much depend on what someone who's new coming in will decide to do with Embiid and everybody else. But they have a chance to make the playoffs still. So that's something to be excited about. If they play the Pistons in the first round, Cade Cunningham is back. So I don't think that would be an exciting series. Maybe they can win a game or two where Paul George and Maxey and VJ all play really well together. And Kelly Oubre has a great game where he had a great first quarter tonight and kind of fell apart later in the game. So there's still reason to watch. And I guess I'm saying this with as less excitement as I'm talking about it, but there's still reason to be excited and watch the last couple games and a play and run and maybe a first round series and it'll end there.
Chaminade.
Yeah, and I also think before we really dive knee deep into these big picture conversations, I think the how of how this season ends does matter. It's one thing if they completely fall off the wagon right now, look horrible tomorrow, lose to either the Bucks or the Pacers, and then get blown out in the playing games. That changes the tune in comparison to if they do scrap their way, beat the Magic, find a playoff series with the Celtics or Pistons, and then look somewhat competitive right there. So I think the context of how the season ends still matters for the conversation of how they're going to approach the future. But the bottom line is today's a tough day for the outlook for the Sixers any way you slice it.
Well, weather is going to be nicer this weekend. I'm going to start working on my garden. I bought this from Costco a couple of weeks ago.
Those mushrooms?
Yeah, they're mushrooms.
Oh, nice.
Solar powered mushrooms. Glass, hand blown, artisan glass, solar rechargeable. They glow. Yeah, I'm excited about them. They're gonna look cool in the front part where brand new mulch, all that.
That's exactly how I figured
just
we'd
become-
end our
should we-
Sixer stream.
We become a Flyers post game
gardening?
show, or
Yeah.
is that fan base gatekeeping us?
What? No, they won't. They invite everybody in. They love everybody.
yeah.
What are you talking about? What's
By the
final-
way, I'll throw my take out there. It is absolute nonsense they give out 2 assists in hockey. That's insane to me.
Yeah, what does that mean? What does that mean? I've never watched a hockey game in my
The
life.
hockey
What does that mean?
assist?
Like
Yeah,
a hockey
and we've
assist
heard
count
that.
as an assist?
Correct. In the box
Wow.
score, Sam. My mind was blown this week when I watched the Flyers. Like I've
That's
always
cool.
heard the term. I didn't think it was actually counting in their stats like that. But if you pass it to the guy who passes to the guy that scores, you get credit for that in the eyes of the hockey people.
That makes sense why in basketball it's called a hockey assist.
Yes. I just can't believe that's like that's actually how they count it. That's actually how they keep record of these things.
It's pretty funny. How many hockey games have you watched before, Sean?
Less than 5, and maybe in the 5 to 10 range in my life.
Great.
Definitely less
Sam?
than 10.
Sam, how many
Zero.
hockey games?
I've never watched a hockey game in my life. I tried for the first quarter of the Canada-US like 4 nations thing. Couldn't do it.
Like literally, you have never watched one hockey game on television.
And I've never been to one either.
Dude.
I don't think I ever will.
No, yes, you will. Yes, you will. Because I'm
If
telling
the Flyers make a run, I might. When was the last time
I
they were
gave
in
a
the
shot
playoffs?
this week.
When was the last time they were in the playoffs?
they made it. I guess they made it back in the pandemic, the bubble.
Oh, really?
I don't even remember it. They weren't good. And then they made it in 2018. That was like the last time that they were like somewhat decent. Man, when they made the Stanley Cup run, that season was unbelievable. 12 was pretty cool. They didn't really have a lot of success after that Stanley Cup, but it's playoff hockey's great, man, especially if your team's in it. But we'll see. We'll see if we have playoff basketball. We'll talk more tomorrow night. We got the Pacers, boys. Always a pleasure. Everybody enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll catch me tomorrow, 10-2. Joel Embiid, did he play his last game in the 76ers uniform? Sam Ostry from The Score says 50-50. Your thoughts. Everybody enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll talk tomorrow. Peace.